Maybe.
There we go. We got sound. Okay.
We've got sound.
Thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome to our 4th episode. I'm Jess.
And I'm Steve.
No, that's Steve.
How good is that? We even introduced each other. So what issues we've been having, just to let you know, so we're looking out for it, is one of our cameras keeps focusing and then stopping focusing, but it looks quite good at the moment.
It looks alright at the moment.
We've got sound, maybe have slight sound issues on Facebook, but don't worry.
Yes, we haven't got the other microphones on today because they don't fit on the phone.
We will rectify that. We've got the wrong cameras in the wrong place.
Yeah, but it's fine. It's cool.
It's fine. So as long as you can all hear us, then that's it, innit, really?
Yeah.
We're fine.
We're here.
We're okay.
Right, so this week we are kind of stepping back a little bit more instead of going forwards like we were planning to do. We are going to go backwards because we're going to talk about you being a parrot whisperer. We are.
Where did I come in? Where's the word parrot whisperer coming to? I've got this tickling me here.
You've had many an adventure with parrots, and I think it's important to do the time warp again.
Let's do the time warp again. Yeah, so it's you get special effects as well. You don't only get the noise. Don't even know. So,
Is that better?
I think she's enjoying this so much now. Everything's turned on. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to be the usual backwards and forwards and everything.
Yeah.
So where we'd actually got to was here, hadn't we? We'd got started.
So we'd on episode 2 we kind of finished on like buying the place, and then episode 3 we sort of talked about you and the neighbour, and
yes.
Also a lot about John Strutt. We did all of John.
Did
Strutt
a lot of John Strutt, yes, which was brilliant.
So we're going to take it back a little bit.
Yes.
Just back a bit.
I'm going to throw a little bit of mix in.
Okay.
We're not going to go on about it, but we'll just throw it all in. There was a little bit missing. Okay.
Was there?
Yes, when we was talking, I was thinking about, obviously trying to think about how it's everything as a timeline. Because I've never really worked it on a timeline. I've never even thought about it.
I mean, one of the things that we didn't think about, we've sort of set the podcast up as best as we can, but one of the things we didn't do was sit down and plan your timeline of what we wanted to talk about in what order, which maybe in hindsight we should have done. But this is where we are, and I quite like going backwards and forwards. As long as we understand where we are in the story, it should matter, right?
And there is going to be, because there's lots of things, I think what we all do the same, and that is when you're talking and you think, oh, remember that?
Yeah.
And unfortunately
so
with me,
triggers something else.
Everything I do seems to have some kind of weird event that goes with it. But what I wanted to just let you know is, because I did have a couple of questions that's come through on the email with regards to the podcast, and they said that when we sold up in Sheffield and moved to here, did we have a lot of money?
Did you?
And I don't know, and I said we didn't. We had about between 6.
So when you say you sold up, you sold the house in Sheffield.
That was it really. It was just the house in Sheffield. That was
because you were still doing the business consulting.
Yes. So basically, we'll go on to. I can't say too much because you got to read my book.
No, to be fair though, it's more in depth in a different way.
Oh yes, it totally yes. But yes, so basically we sold up, and the idea was to move out here, and it was a whole new way of thinking in them days. Things were just like today. You know, if you speak to somebody today and say they work majority of the time at home or they work online, that's normal.
Yes.
That's just normal.
Yeah.
So even staff here have worked at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in those days, 25 years ago, if you said I'm working at home, they said, yeah, I know you are. What, decorating bedroom? So, but what was happening is the internet was starting to take off, and I was doing...
That's very loud.
Excuse me, I do apologise, that was very loud.
That's very loud.
The internet was just starting taking off, and although I don't see it now with you techno people, I was quite in front with technology, and I had computers when people...
When the first computer came out. Steve bought a computer when they were first born.
Right, my first computer was a Commodore 64.
Is that the first of the computer?
That was a couple of my friends had the...
Did you buy it?
The little Sinclair. Yes, I did buy it. It was brand new. And what you used to get... Did you ever see a Commodore 64?
No, I didn't.
So all you got is like a keyboard, and then a little tape deck.
Okay.
So all your programs came on a cassette. So, and if you had to, so everybody all got them, and there were a few. So there was, I think there was probably two. The BBC computer.
Right.
I don't know why they called it the BBC computer, which was like the first Apple one, and a Commodore 64. And I actually had a Commodore 64. And what you had to do was, if you bought a computer magazine, because it's all right, the cats are actually fighting underneath. So you bought a computer because everybody was going to be computer whiz kids.
Yes.
And everything was syntax.
Yes.
And what you did in the middle page, you got about 4 pages of programming to make your own game.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so
that's quite good.
Well, I did.
Did you do it?
I did. Well, twice I did it.
Excellent. Did
Took
it work?
about 6 hours.
Okay.
Right. So on first one I did.
Right.
Sat there, and you have to make sure every single full stop is in the right place.
Yeah.
And you're probably talking 20,000 lines, and then you get to the last one. It says syntax error on line 38, and it's probably on about that long. And you're like looking, thinking full stop, comma, whatever. Anyway, so there were a lot of failures.
Yes.
One of the best ones I did, and this is an absolute true story.
Right.
One of the best ones I did. It was a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday morning, and I thought, I'm not at work today, which is unusual for me.
Okay.
I'm going to spend all day programming this football game.
Right.
Okay, and I spent all day. The family went out because they knew I was going to be sat there, right? So Dawn and the children went out visiting, and I sat for a full, probably 7 hours, 8 hours, and I was down to the last section.
Right.
And I got up to have a drink, and while I was having a drink, the kids come home and didn't realise I was programming, so I turned the computer off and put the TV on. Hence, I didn't have no children after that. No, so that was the early days of computers.
That hurt.
I don't even think. I mean, it might have a bit of a theme with, but I think there was a little bit of language came out.
Yeah, that might.
I never ever had to physically do anything with my children, but I think on that day they probably thought, "Oh, this is as close as it's going to get." So it was. So that was the early days of computers, and so I was quite. When you talk, and that was in 1982.
Right.
So you get up to 1999, 2000, nearly 20 years on. So computers was out and the internet was out. And I was actually I had a friend in Manchester who ran 2 or 3 big companies, and they weren't very internet savvy, whereas I was.
Yeah.
So they were paying me quite a lot of money to make them. So the idea was I didn't need a lot of money. I sold my house. All the business, the building company and everything, that all got disbanded and broken up and into little bits. So there were different lads doing different jobs, and I gave them all that.
Right.
And I moved out here.
Okay.
With the idea of, I was going around all the Pets at Home stores training staff, which was a very lucrative business, and doing business consulting.
Yes.
Brilliant, that's no problem at all. So, but I didn't have no money.
Right.
I didn't have no, and this is what people were asking on the emails. They were turning on and saying, "So how did you buy the other house next door, Steve, if you didn't?" Well, I'm not going to go into it too much, but it wasn't just me.
Okay.
Something that a lot of people don't know is, because I was quite an infectious person, and people used to listen to me and think, "Oh, I'd like a bit of that. I'm going to have a go at that. Steve sounds like he knows what he's doing." And they'd follow me, and then about 3 months later, think, "He doesn't."
No, yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So I needed to buy this house, and I had a friend that turned and said, "I'd like to." She knows what she's doing. She's been here 8 years. She knows exactly what she's doing. But anyway, so I said, right. So I had a friend who said, "I love what you're doing, Steve. I'd love to. Can I be a part of it?"
Okay.
Now, please don't look at me bad, right?
Did you also kick them out?
No, I didn't kick them out at all. But I did need somebody to actually buy next door because I ain't got no money.
Right.
So I said to him, I would rather do something 50% than fail on something 100%.
Okay.
And I need next door.
Right.
So he said, right, if you can get the deal done, I'll buy next door and we'll go into this 50-50.
Right.
Okay? And he was a manager.
Into the charity 50-50.
Into the business, because he went to charity then. It was, this
so
is just
into
a business.
into
the business 50-50.
Okay.
And so I said, yep, no problem. And so that's what we did. He got the house, and I did the deal with the neighbours, like you did, like I said in episode 2. The deal. He moved in. We started work, started building, and then sadly, I realised the reason that I'd been self-employed for so many years and never had a partner. I realised why. I'm not very good with partners.
Right, okay.
Because I have this, I'm too tight for partners because I believe that you just work and you don't get paid. You just work and don't get paid.
Right.
And he said, when do we get paid? And I said, no, you just work. You don't get paid.
How is he supposed to live?
Well, that was the idea of him selling everything he'd got, was to save enough money for him to make sure, which is what I said. And he did.
Right.
He did have some money.
Okay.
He had more than me.
Yes.
But he, I just realised I've had a few partners in my history and I'm not very good with them because I love working.
Yeah.
And I love getting my hands in and I love getting into it. And so we sat down and discussed and he says, so what do we do as far as...
Jeez Louise.
Sorry, all the radios are so loud. So it says, what
Mine's
do we
not
do?
even in it. It's
I
just
know.
yours.
So he says, what do we do as far as wages and everything? And I said, well, I can't really take wages. We need to actually be 6 months pushing this.
Yeah.
Surely you've got enough money. He says, well,
Well,
I have.
when you're buying into a business like this, especially when you're first starting off, you kind of expect there to be some sacrifices that you have to make.
Oh,
especially
yes.
like if you're obviously, because you were very passionate about what you wanted to do, and
Well, you see, the problem is it weren't just a business, and that's
Yeah.
where I'd made a mistake because
Yeah.
I thought I just need to get it started. But I know it always sounds a cliche, and they always turn around and say it to people that's like doing okay. Money never did anything for me, so I wanted
Yeah.
everything to be inside. And because I was a builder, then if we'd have had to pay for everything, we'd just wouldn't.
Yeah.
It'd never got off the ground.
yeah,
So unfortunately, within 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I realised I'd made a big mistake. So I had that. The good thing, the good thing, because we're not going to dwell on this, but the good thing was one of the things, and this is when I turn into a business consultant. This is exactly good advice from my solicitor. While we're all talking and friends, so me and you are going to go into business, and we're good mates.
Right.
This is the time we do a contract,
right.
a partnership agreement.
When everyone's happy.
When everybody's buzzing, and I turn on to you and say, right, Jess, don't forget when it breaks up, you'll get this and I get that, and you'll go, yeah, that's no problem. If I wait until things are going wrong, then you turn
people
on and say,
start
no, I
wanting a
want
bit
more.
Yeah.
So we did it, and we created a partnership agreement. And unfortunately, within a really short period of time, I just said, I've made a massive mistake. And so the hardest part is how do you go to your mate and say...
Get lost.
This is
Cheers and everything, but off you go.
No, because then what I'd done is I'd actually... With there's certain things that we're going to go back for, obviously, further on, we'll come back to these kind of things.
Yeah.
But I'd made a really good relationship with the bank, and I
Yeah.
have no idea why. But I went into, I'm going to say, well, they were HSBC in Skegness, and there was a lady there called Wendy. She was a bank manager. This is when bank managers used to be bank managers. They're
Right.
not now, they're like computers. They call them relationship managers now, they're not even bank managers. And I know, because I've got about 5, and they say, hi Steve, this is a relationship manager. Which one? It's a different one every 3 months. I mean, Lloyd's get through them than Tesco's do with staff.
Oh my word.
I get a different phone call every 3 or 4 months. Hi, this is Bill. Hello, I'm your new manager. What happened to Ben? Oh, he's gone. So anyway, this is when they were, and she was sat there
Right,
and I said, right, my name's Steve. Hello, I'm opening a business down the road. Yeah, what do they call it? It's the Parrots, or the National Parrot Sanctuary. All right, what's that? It's going to be a parrot sanctuary. Right. Can I have some money? No. What do you want money for? Right, this is what I need to do. I need to buy next door. Okay. To do what? To do this. All right, okay. And what's next door? It says, my partner. All right. And how much is the house worth? And I think, I think it's worth about, let's say it's worth £160,000. £160,000. However, I promised him I'll give him £50,000 more than it's worth.
Right.
Just because as a compensation.
As an incentive, yeah.
And she says, oh,
Hello,
right.
sweetheart.
And amazingly, she said, right, let's go for it.
So she took a punt on you.
She actually took a
Yeah.
real risk,
Yeah.
and which was very fortunate.
And she's been paying for it ever since.
No, very fortunate because, excuse me, very fortunate because 3 months later she left.
Oh, wow.
And the next person that came in didn't like me.
Oh, no.
But
You are very Marmite to people, though. People either love you or they hate you.
unfortunately, yes. So anyway, so that's that little story that people,
Yes.
just to answer that question.
So
there
you
was
ended
a
up
partner.
buying him out?
So I bought him out. Unfortunately, we never spoke since.
Oh, that's sad.
It didn't go down very well. He was a lovely bloke.
So how did you
lovely
even
family.
approach that conversation? How did you go up to him and say, listen, this ain't working?
You know, you both know. You know, like I knew
How'd
by.
you have the bottle to go up to him and say something though? Because I'm just not very confrontational as a person.
I don't think.
do
I,
well with
I think it's
confrontation.
dealing with people.
But-
I think if you are genuine. So I sat with him. So if somebody sat with me and says, Steve, you're part of a business that has got no money, and we can't have no money, and it's going to be very hard for the next 12 to 18 months.
Right.
And you're not even into the business.
Yeah.
You were just here as a partner. And I'm willing to buy you out and give you an extra £50,000 instantly. It just makes it easier.
Yeah, I guess.
Excuse me. Sorry, Winnie. So it's a real difficult thing, but it's one of those things that dealing with people is what is if you're a good manager or if you're a good business person, you can say the bad things as much as you can say the good things.
Yeah.
And as long as you know it's genuine,
come in.
that there is no issue there. So that's got that a little bit out of the way. Okay.
Right.
So we will come back into that because we've got some cracking things about bank managers and things. Wait till we get them stories.
Right. Okay.
We've got loads of them. We're going to go, but they'll be more when we're building the place. But what we're going to do is, what you were saying about before is going backwards a little bit. So we're going backwards because parrot whisperer, you mentioned parrot whisperer.
Yes.
I think I've been called that, but it's not
So obviously you were a parrot whisperer before you bought the place.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, what I did is, I used to study parrots all the time.
Yeah.
And I became quite well known for offering advice and travelling around the country.
Right.
So I used to travel all over the place, and literally, if anybody had a problem, and a lot of magazines used to, because I must have been a little bit weird, really, because I was free. I never charged anybody anything.
Yeah.
And I'd go around and try to help them with the parrots. But some of the people I've met have been some of the nicest people, and some of the places I've been to. So I remember both me and then Pete did it, who used to work here. I had to go and sort somebody's parrot out, and I'm not very good with faces.
Right.
And I had to go to London to sort this bird out, and I knocked on the door, and the chap who answered, I knew instantly, was famous.
Right. Okay.
They had no idea who we were.
Right. Okay. How did you know he was famous then? Did
Oh,
you have
instantly.
like a gut feeling?
Well, he was in Harry Potter.
Oh right.
Yeah, he was somebody like, but I've never watched Harry Potter either. But it was somebody like, what do they call the
If
big...
you end up telling me that you've met Alan Rickman, I'm going to be really annoyed.
Oh, was Alan Rickman? Has he died now?
Yes.
Was he the...
Snape.
No, he wasn't
Not that
him.
one. Hagrid.
No, the one with the white on.
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore. Him.
The alive one or the dead one?
It must... Well, I haven't watched it, so I don't know. So...
Shall I get a picture up?
Yes. Well, yes.
Well, you're not very good with faces,
I'm not very
we've
good with
discovered,
it.
so...
I'm pathetic. But I remember going, and I remember Pete saying the same, because years after...
Hang on, is this correct?
Uh,
No, it's not, is it? It's 2.
no, it's 1. That's right, that. And then it's 10 for 2.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Forgot about that.
Sorry, we're also working at the same time.
Yeah, sorry,
What was I looking up? Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
Carry on.
So a few years later, when I moved here, we got a phone call saying,
Not this dude.
"Oh, yeah,
Or
that's it."
this dude. There were 2 different dudes.
No, it weren't him. I think
weren't
it was
him.
the other one.
He was the original one.
No,
You think it was this one?
this one, yes. That's what it looked like, yes. Yes, so I'm sure that's what it was. Right, listen, I mean, you were brilliant.
What's wrong with you, man?
No, I went into parrots, I went into people. So, and what brought it more to home was, when
So
I
you
went...
just got, hang on, sorry.
I just
so
got
you
a
just got a phone call?
Yes.
What kind of life have you lived? I don't understand what's going on right now.
What do you mean? No, because that's what happened. I mean, the amount of people I've been to, like celebrities off EastEnders and celebrities from Coronation Street.
That's
'Cause
just cuckoo
you
bananas.
don't know that they're celebrities until you get there, and you still question yourself when they are there.
Yeah.
And it's like
So you went because he called about a parrot?
parrot advice.
Right, okay.
So I went and sorted this parrot out. But what made it more, and I don't know if it was him,
Right.
but it was one of them people.
It looked like him.
Yeah, it definitely looked like him. So sorts that out, and then a few years later, we get a phone call, and somebody wanted to bring the parrot here,
Okay,
and Pete went to pick it up,
right.
and he came back and went, oh, he was somebody famous. I said, what do you mean somebody famous? He says, you were like somebody like, he might have Harry Potter. I went, where did you go? And he said, London. So I told him where I went, and he went, yeah, that's where I went. So obviously I'd given him the advice years and years ago.
Yes.
But when he come to get part with his parrot, he wanted it to come to us.
Yes, got ya.
So me and Pete were talking and said, oh, all right. But we were both a bit thick. We both couldn't work out
who it was.
between both of us. We were like, by the time we'd finished, it was Elvis. You know, because we had no idea. But we both knew it was somebody famous.
Someone, yeah.
And I've been so fortunate and unfortunate. Because, I mean, again, I can give you these silly little stories.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch a TV program called The Bill?
No.
Right, it was quite big, all the guys on the horses. Quite
I've
big.
heard of it.
Yeah, and it was like a police one. And we were like, I didn't really watch it.
Yeah.
But I watched this particular episode and I was watching it. And it was alright, it was quite good. It was quite rough and ready. And it was like, that's okay. As soon as we'd finished, we used to live very close in Sheffield, live very close to the supermarket.
Yeah.
About 3/4 of a mile away. And we were only young, back in the 90s. And I said, we watched it, I said, I'll just nip down to the shop and get whatever for pack up or whatever I do. She says, oh, I'll come with you. So me and Dawn went down to the shop and we stood in the queue of the shop and she said, that's coincidental, isn't it? So I said, what? She says, we've just watched that on telly and look who's there. So I'm like looking and thinking, oh.
Who's that?
Oh, where? So she says, in. So I said, yeah. Who is it? She says, that's the lead player in The Bill that we've just watched. He lives in Sheffield. You're joking. So that was within half an hour.
Holy moly.
So I'm pathetic.
Yeah.
I'm just not very good. And we have celebrities turn up here, and I'm not very good at it. So anyway, I used to go around. So we'll probably have a celebrity edition one day where we drop in all these people. So, but anyway, so I used to go around all these places and give advice out on parrots. And fortunately, because I obviously knew what I was doing because I was a parrot whisperer.
You were a parrot whisperer.
That's what they said.
Well, people started calling you for advice for everything, so...
I got nothing but positives. But what I used to try to say to people is, it's okay me sorting your bird out.
Yeah.
But that's for me.
Okay.
Because I had this affinity with parrots.
Yes.
So I could go and sort. It's a bit like...
So like the cat whisperer guy who's really good with cats and works out the problems and says, okay, I know what's wrong, but obviously you need to know what's wrong and how to solve it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest issues is if it's a confidence thing, then the actual animals react and respond because of your confidence.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the best way to... So if you got a bird that was biting and I could see very quickly the reason why it was biting, I could actually sort it out really quickly.
Yeah.
And birds say, I've tried to handle this bird for years now and I just can't get near it. And within half an hour, I'd have it sat on my knee or sat on my hand. And they'd like look and think, right, what has he actually done? Where I realised in the early days, a lot of it wasn't me being good with them, it was me being good with the birds.
Yeah.
Because the instant I told them what to do, the birds still bit them.
Right.
Because the next level of learning was that the birds are very quick to realise a dominant role. Although they don't have what they call, they not, when they're high up, they don't get dominant. But if they end up being a dominant role, so if they know that you're frightened, I can't stop that.
Yeah, they work on confidence.
Yeah, and I can't stop that. I can actually go and pick the bird up, but if I put it on you, it'll bite you.
Yeah.
And so I then had to reteach the parrot, or let them reteach the parrot, and stop all the things that had caused it in the first place. So if they'd been putting it on the doors, or if they'd putting it on top of the cage, that's usually what it was. If they'd responded to anything negative, that's what it was. So I had to reteach them to reteach. So
why do you think that putting a parrot on... So height is still an issue for parrots, right?
It can, there's an issue there with. So basically, if I was to put my parrot on top of the cage every single day, 9 out of 10 times there's no issue. That's higher than me.
Yes.
Well, yeah, higher than me, but also on the top of his house.
Yes.
Don't forget that's his house.
Yeah.
When he sits on there, and people are used to this, oh, it's all right, Steve, my bird's out all day.
Yeah.
That's not really a good thing, because what that means is he ends up being the boss of his feeding area, and your living room becomes his house.
Right, yeah.
So that's not too bad as long as there's no negativity. And the negativity comes when one day you decide that you've got to go to the shops.
Yeah.
And he's just had a sleep, he's fell fast asleep on the top.
Yeah.
And you've got to put him in his cage, because if you went out and left him unsupervised,
he's
going to damage something.
Yes.
So you'll go up to him and say, come on, Billy, let's have you up. And he thinks, I'm just having a kip.
Yeah.
You'll put your hand up, he lunges down to bite you.
Yeah, because he
say,
doesn't want to.
I'm sleeping, leave me
Yeah.
alone. You react, and it's how you react basically dictates how he's going to behave in the future.
So do you think it's not that they're putting him on top of the cage, it's that he doesn't have a specific space?
There's that, and also you're not. The biggest issue I find is people don't, and you don't have to be a parrot whisperer to this. And I'm not a parrot. You don't have to be. You don't have to be good with parrots.
Self-proclaimed.
You don't have to be good with parrots to this. You need to be able to read your bird.
Yes.
So even a parrot that I've had for years, if I go to pick it up without warning it or without any kind of notice of like tapping the cage first so that he wakes up, if I just go, come on, up,
Yeah.
there is a
It's
chance
gonna shock him.
because he's going to say, no, I'm asleep. And if I push him, sometimes he will step up, but if he finds it, no, I don't want to, and he gets a bit nasty,
Yeah.
then he'll bite you. So, and that could be anywhere. That could be on your shoulder, could be on the top of a door, could be on the cage. It doesn't make no difference where he is. If you do something that upsets him, that triggers him into doing something bad, that's where the problem is.
Okay.
And it's not where he is or anything. It's the fact that he's bit you, you've reacted, and he thinks, like, oh,
Yeah, I can get away
that's
with this.
triggered a new thing.
Yeah.
So then what he does then, the bird then realises, and very, very quickly realises that I don't want to bite him all the time because I think they're brilliant, we get on really well. But if I don't want to do something, I can use that as a tactic. And then it becomes a problem. So people used to phone me and say, Steve, every time I put my hand up, he just bites me. And it's like, well, they all thought I was really good. And what they didn't realise is, I'm going to knock myself down a little bit here. There was only a few of us looking at parrots' behaviour. There wasn't that many at all. And it was very quick to... they're not that complicated.
Yes.
Parrots are quite transparent. They might be intelligent, but they're not complicated
Yeah.
creatures. They're very routine creatures.
Yeah.
And the best routine for a parrot is no routine.
Yeah.
Because if you give them a routine, sadly they will set their body clocks to that. And that's when all sorts of problems happen. Because we're humans and we can't do that. We break the routine. So I used to get these people from all over the place with all the... And the three main problems were, can't get them out of the cage, it's too noisy, or he bites.
There's not really a lot you can do about the noise, is there?
Well, you've just said that. I'm going to do another name drop. Right, so I got a phone call from a lady called Alex Cadis.
Okay.
No, she'll not mean anything to you.
No.
Amazingly lovely lady. And she said, there's a parrot that at the end of my road in a pet shop, and me and Mark want to go and take it out of there because we can hear it down our street and it's just screaming and it's padlocked in this cage. So I said, yeah, no
That's
problem.
sad.
It were horrendous. They called him Peter. He was the noisiest parrot in the world. And I mean, we think we've got noisy parrots here 16 hours a day.
Oh my god.
A cockatoo at full blast.
Oh my god.
Excuse me.
How is he even... Oh,
No, it's okay. I'm going to drink at the top.
okay.
So this
Cockatoos are loud at the best of times. We have birds in here that will go for hours and hours. But generally speaking, you can sort of go in and say,
Yeah.
just pipe it down a little bit, and they will stop for a bit.
Well, I think the sad thing about this was it was in a shop, and so the kids that were going in the shop thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
So it was entertaining.
Yeah.
The chap had got him up for sale for
So
quite
he
a lot
was
of money.
like getting the positive reinforcement for doing the sounds.
Absolutely
from the kids.
perfect. If
Yeah.
your parrot's screaming and you scream back, that's perfect. That's what
Yeah.
he wants you to do. Because when he's screaming, it doesn't sound loud to him.
Yeah.
That's just a way of communication. So, gets his phone call, can you come down and have a look? If we buy it, will you take it?
Right.
And I said, yes, no problem, I can do that, that's okay.
How was that for you?
Well, I drove down to London, and she
So
said...
they just wanted to buy it purely for the point of getting it out of the pet shop and
Yes.
giving it to you so that you could rehabilitate it.
Yes.
So was this in Sheffield?
This was in Sheffield,
so
yeah.
you hadn't bought this place yet?
No, this was just literally somebody who'd seen the TV programmes.
Right, and contacted you for help
Yes,
on this parrot that was stuck in a pet shop?
that's right.
Right, okay.
So I goes down, and I down the road, knocks on the door. This lady came in, and so so they bought it, and Mark bought it.
Yeah.
I gets Peter. We had to literally break him out of the
What kind
cage.
of cockatoo was he?
Greater silver crested. So one of the big ones.
So a big one.
Yeah, the biggest of the sulphurs.
Yeah.
We had to break the cage down because it was padlocked, and it'd been padlocked for so long
Yeah.
that nobody got any keys. So I had to close the shop door. This huge parrot, as daft as he can be, as mental as he can be, wanted to kill everybody. Pulled it out and I had to put my hand in, grab hold of it, put it in a towel and put it in a box. Fortunately, on all those kind of occasions, I did it like an expert. When I did it in my house, ripped me to shreds. So gets it home. We kept in touch for a while.
Yeah.
And then I said, no problem, we gets back home and starts doing what I needed to do. And I realised that every time I disappeared, he set off screaming.
Yeah.
And he would scream for easily a good 16 hours without a problem. So I actually designed a little bit of a program where I could, my office, I sat him in front of my office window and I could actually literally start working. The instant I walked out, he'd set off screaming.
Right.
And before he got into full-blown screaming, I'd walk back in again.
Right.
So he'd sit there and he'd be playing away, and then I'd stand up and walk, and as I'd stand up, he'd be like looking and thinking, aye, Steve's gone.
Right.
I best shout him back. And then just as he started, I'd reappear and he'd go, and carry on as normal. So
Right.
I had this plan that I thought, right, I think over a period of time, I can get him to stop. And so that's what I actually did. I actually started this program where I was going in and out all the time. And within probably took about a month. And then he would be at his quietest.
Okay.
He was still a very, very loud parrot. A really, really loud parrot.
I'm just going to see if we can get up.
What are you going to do? See if you can get a...
Oops. Look. Hang on.
She's amazing with this. I don't know what she's doing, but it looks amazing. What's that? Is that...
Well, it's right over my face.
Is that on the screen?
That's on the screen.
What can people see there?
Everyone should be able to see that. Hang on.
Oh, guys, can you see
So
that?
on Twitch, you should be able to see now a picture of a greater self-crested cockatoo.
So about take and all this lot.
So on the left-hand side, hopefully you can see that. On the left-hand side is a lesser self-crested cockatoo. Sorry, on Facebook and TikTok, obviously it's different systems. But on Twitch, on the left-hand side is a lesser self-crested cockatoo, and they're about this big, aren't they? And then obviously you can see the size comparison of a greater self-crested cockatoo, and they're probably about this big.
Yeah, they are huge.
Like they are big. Well, that's including the tail, though. To be fair.
Yes.
Anyway, carry on.
So it took me about 3 months. She's brilliant.
I'm well impressed with myself there. Hang on, let's have some. Go on.
Well done. So it took me about 3 months to get him.
So he basically started screaming
quiet.
every time you left.
Instantly.
Yeah.
And I kept reappearing before he got into full-blown screaming. So I did that.
So were you trying to essentially condition him by doing that, or were you just trying to test where his boundaries were?
Well, I think we're more to recondition him to being a quiet...
Better.
All right. Recondition him to being not necessarily too quiet, but so that he wasn't demanding.
Right.
So he can't scream just because I'm not there.
Yes.
And he was brilliant up until him getting here. And then once he got outside, he realised he could scream as much. And he was here for a good 15 years.
Goodness
In fact,
gracious
if you
me.
actually look on Zims, you'll probably find that he only passed it. Because, I mean, he must have been... He had an old import ring on. And the import ring was something like 70.
So did he not, blimey, did he not stop screaming when he got with his own species? Or did he just continue, did he get out of the habit?
Yeah. He got out. I mean, while he was with me, he realised that there was other things to entertain him.
Yes.
Don't forget, he'd only seen the things that had gone through the pet shop. He'd never
Yeah.
seen never been close to another parrot.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there was another parrot sat next door to him.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And I got it wrong. His name wasn't Peter. It was Benji.
It was Benji.
Remind me of Peter later, which
Right,
is another little story. But you guys can remind us.
Yeah, remind us.
Send us some messages saying Peter. So it was Benji. And he came here and he literally, he was here for a good, 15, 16, maybe longer.
Yeah.
But he was, all of a sudden when they're outside, the noise dissipates. We hear it, but it just didn't mean
Yeah,
anything.
it goes into the ether of other noises, doesn't it?
And in a house, and I always think about this with people I know.
Can you smell that?
I can, I don't know. We don't do this on purpose, guys, honestly, but every single week, one of these cats decides to drop something.
That's a lot, man.
And we're only in a little podcast studio. And believe me, it's
I
circulated.
don't know whether she's done one outside.
I don't know. No?
Oh. Is it just you then?
It may be just
smelly
him.
little what's it?
He's going anyway. So that's what we did. So basically brought him here, got him sorted out, and he was happily. And that was, I don't know where they come from, these stories, but they're all true. And they all just
expect you
appear.
to just make them up.
No, but what I used to do is I used to go around some of the stories that I've had, just to keep you informed of what it is. So I used to travel everywhere.
Yeah.
And I have no idea, but little old ladies and little old men used to adopt me.
Right.
And they used to, I'd literally spend, and I always used to have a cup of tea with them, and they'd make me a sandwich and tell me everything about what the family's doing, you know, and the family being bad and everything. And our Bill, he hadn't been around to see me for 3 months. And it's like, and they tell me everything. I used to love it. I used to sit there and find everything out about them, because by doing that, I could realise how they was treating their parrots.
Yes.
And unfortunately, parrots had. There's not many parrots has a brilliant life in a pet situation, and I'm not saying they're not loved.
No, yeah, I mean,
in fact, they're loving.
Sometimes they're loved excessively.
Yeah, sometimes the loving is what causes the problem.
Yeah.
But what used to happen is, these parrots used to. They'd always start off as this. Usually, when there's two different types of parrots. Is many years ago, they always used to be imported parrots, because there weren't nobody hand rearing them.
Yeah.
And then when hand reared ones started, everybody had these little bundles of feathers that were usually about 12 weeks old.
Yeah.
And everybody in the family used to have them. And then as the parrots started to, the two things, one is grow up, and the other one is become part of the furniture, half the family would abandon it, like they do with everything, whether it's a cat, a hamster or anything. And the other half would love it, and the other half are usually parents.
Yeah.
And then it only liked one of the parents.
Yep.
And it was usually the one that didn't like him as much. So all of a sudden, there wasn't a lot going for a parrot. They only start doing this when we're in here. They never do it on the other side. And so basically, there's only parrots that works with. And sadly, what happens is, as they start showing negative behaviour, they start getting took further and further away from where you're living.
Yeah, because you stop interacting with them as much, and you stop handling them as much, especially if they start biting and stuff like that.
And then they start screaming.
So how many parrot whisperer things do you think you did?
Well, I travelled. Are you ready for these numbers?
Go on.
I did about 225,000 miles.
Jeez Louise.
I used to go out I used to go out at night time. I used to go out, and because I was self-employed, I would used to dictate my time. I used to do between 1,500 and 2,000 miles a week.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Oh, I used to love it, and I used to try. And I've been all over. I've been in some of the most back and beyond places. So. A needle pulling.
So. At what point were you doing this? Because at one point you were travelling with Eric and going to see sick children.
That's it. That's all at the same time.
So you were going to like cases at the same time.
All the time, yes. So I did
with
it.
Eric in the car.
No, I never took Eric with me to them, because I didn't know what I was going to see.
So like separate occasions.
Yes.
So you were doing like consulting with parrots and sorting out people's problems with parrots at the same time as visiting sick children with parrots.
And going around to pets at home doing talks.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
That's a lot to fit in 1 week.
Brilliant though. It was lovely. And so it was.
So do you mind me asking, did you charge people to go and see their parrots and sort their problems?
No, free.
Free of charge?
Always free. Never charged anybody. Never bought a parrot, never sold a parrot, and never
charged for advice.
Charged for anything to do with that. Never charged for a phone call, never asked for a donation for anything like that. That's why I was skinned.
That's why we have no money.
That's why that's why I was skinned.
Because Steve refuses to charge anyone but anything.
So we literally so I used to go around. But it was because, unfortunately, like, we've got thousands and thousands of dog experts, thousands of cat. We're the only one that's got a cat that can't jump.
Sheila the kitten has just tried to jump on the table and fall and
failed.
Quite dramatically.
There's lots of I once worked with a horse whisperer. A proper horse whisperer.
And you don't like horses?
No, I'm frightened to death of horses.
It's like one of his irrational fears. He hates horses.
Yes, and I did work with a horse whisperer. But there's even more of them than there is parrot experts.
Yeah.
So what I was finding is, while I was going around sorting out breeders and their birds and pet shops and their birds,
right,
by going around in the pet world, you actually started to see how people genuinely looked after their birds.
Yeah.
One of the things I never did was judge.
Yeah.
And unfortunately...
Well, yeah, because like you get the same thing as you do with breeders, is they start shutting off and not asking you, and they need the help.
So I never judged. I used to go in and sort their birds out, and then advise, and I always made relationships.
Yeah.
And then advise accordingly throughout the next 3 or 4 months, saying, if I were you, I'd put it in a corner, I wouldn't put it in front of a window. Because everybody used to think, I'll put my parrot in front of the window, so that he can see can get some sunshine on his bike, and he can see what's going outside. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the sun through glass is no good. It's no benefits whatsoever because it filters out all the vitamins and everything that they
Right,
need.
okay.
So that's no good. And the other side of it is they've got parrots are natural prey. They're not predators.
Right.
So if you'll sit them in a goldfish bowl, so to speak,
Yeah.
they've got no protection.
No, and then they feel
vulnerable all the time. So
yeah.
they're stressed. And some parrots, I used to go and see some parrots. I mean, again, when you're saying these kind of things, one of the most common things I used to see is African greys biting the nails.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so an African grey biting its nail is one that's really stressed out.
Really?
And people had no idea. And you go in
Yeah.
and he'd bite his nails and he'd bite through them and he'd bite his legs and make them bleed. And they say, he just won't stop biting his nails. And it was like, right, let's just move his cage from there into the corner.
Right.
So he's got 2 walls of protection.
Yes.
Let's get him into a routine, a 12-hour day, 12-hour night routine.
Right.
And people were frightened to death to actually do some of the things that I used to say to them. So I used to say to them, most parrots, because they're from the southern hemisphere, they literally have 12-hour day, 12-hour night.
Yes. Yeah.
So when it comes to the end of their 12-hour day, make it as dark as possible.
Yeah.
In the olden days, you used to cover them up with a cloth
Yeah.
or a blanket or something.
Yeah. I mean, there is a thing to say that obviously parrots are very, very smart. They are
Yes.
one of the most intelligent species that you can
Having the house
be
without a
around.
doubt, yes.
So having an abnormal amount of sunlight in their day has got to be really overstimulating.
Oh, and not only that, but it's like we don't. Dogs and cats are so easy. Even these rabid things, they're so easy because we know what they like.
Yeah.
We're all an expert on dogs and cats, really.
Yes.
Well, where parrots are so different,
Strong blood.
Parrots are so different because you're either a wild import.
Yes.
So that's a totally different thing to looking after one that's had no social life.
Yeah.
It's been hand-raised, never seen another bird.
Yeah.
So they came with their own problems. But like I said before, they were very intelligent, but not very complicated.
Don't start getting jealous because she's on my lap. Don't do that.
This is the cat whisperer now. Look. This is the cat shouter, which is the opposite to the parrot whisperer. So basically, I would go around and sort these birds out, and they were all very, very common problems, whether they were biting nails, self-mutilation, screaming, biting. Usually the common things, won't come out of the cage, shouts too much.
Yeah.
Or,
one thing we do get a lot of, and one thing we do... Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
no, that's what you're in. That's the idea. The more you'll say, the more I remember. The more stories we've got.
The one thing we do get an awful lot of, and we get told an awful lot when they come to donate their parrots, is they will turn around and say, "I'm so sorry, but she swears like a trooper." Did you ever have any cases where you were called round specifically to sort out the swearing of a parrot?
I did. There's
we
two,
have so many.
and we do have some proper swearing parrots. The difference with the unfortunate thing and the fortunate thing, because no matter what we say, it is funny.
It's very funny.
And it's so odd,
It's
and we
incredibly
probably
funny.
hear it more than anyone.
We do. The
because
amount of
we
times
deal
I've
with
been
it.
called a bee while I'm walking past them is
And we'll
it's ridiculous.
But we don't record it because we were working with birds all the time, and you'd be recording them all the time. And then all of a sudden you walk in and you go to move one up, and it just says something.
Yeah.
And you can't help but laugh.
Yeah.
You just can't help it.
I mean, to be fair, the funniest thing that I've heard recently isn't even a swear. It's what was that? That African grey that used to say, "Do you want to have a bath?"
Yep. Want a bath?
Want a bath?
Yep.
I'm like, "No, I'm alright, mate."
And like, what did they call the one that came from London? There was 2 that came together, and we used the term so many times. And every time we use the term, I say, "What the parrot?" And I will remember. We detracting from where we were, but I will remember. But swearing, yes, and I tried something that didn't work. I thought it would work, and it actually made the press, but it didn't really work.
Oh,
but the press had already covered it. And what that was is there was a couple of swearing parrots in the Chesterfield area, and they proper did swear.
Yeah.
And she wanted to put...
Just to be clear, parrots don't know what swear words are.
Oh, no,
They
definitely
have
not.
no idea.
They're just noises.
They are just noises. They're just repeating something that they have heard too many times,
Yes.
and they have now learnt it.
And they don't... The thing is when... And I've said this so many times to so many people, that when you're talking normally... So if I was to repeat what we've said now, I'll say it in a totally different way.
Yeah.
But if I was to swear at someone, we nearly always say it with the same feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we say it so they very quickly hear that.
It's me.
And we've had some proper
We
swearing
have, yeah.
parrots.
We've got some real sailors. We've still got some real sailors.
Oh yes, without a doubt. And so I once got a call from somebody in Chesterfield, and they've got 2 parrots, And she'd called me for advice and said, what's the best thing to do for these parrots? And I used to set up, I never set things up that they definitely couldn't do.
She's on a mad one.
So what I used to do is, I used to try to set up something for them and say, right, this is the ideal scenario.
Yeah.
And you'll do what you can out of it, because everything you do will be positive. Now, the ideal scenario for a pet parrot, in my opinion, is, first of all, to have more than one.
Okay.
Secondly, to spend all day outside in the neighbourhood.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, to come back in at night time, have an hour's quality time with you.
Yeah.
And then have 12 hours absolute serene sleep.
Yes.
That's the ideal
Do you
scenario.
think that parrots can be around humans in that situation? Because I tend to find that when we put parrots with other parrots, they want to be parrots and they want to be with their parrot and they don't really want to interact with humans at all.
That's a good point.
In that situation, like having an hour of quality time, would it be an hour of quality time?
Well,
Would you get that?
I think it is, yes. So I think what happens is parrots, very quickly become... So we know that parrots, once they get with other birds, actually turn into a bird.
Yes.
Which is brilliant. But if it's like... the fact that they're not domesticated, so what you're trying to do is, you're trying to create something in their lives that is a positive.
Yeah.
And in that positive time, you can do so much with your parrot and find so many things out about it. So what we did is we designed something called quality time food.
Quality time food?
We're so unique. We couldn't have thought of anything better. And what it was is, you know these little plastic dishes you get? We used to get some little plastic dishes. And the idea I got is, many, many years ago, I was asked if I would design some parrot food for a big company.
Yeah.
And I said, yep, no problem, as long as you do what I say. And then they asked if I'd endorse it. So I said, yep, no problem. And the samples they sent around in these little plastic tubs, but they were all signed up and ready as if they was going to be the full jars or the full bags and everything. So
right.
And when it came, I thought, that would actually be quite good as if we just had that.
Like a little treat pot?
A little treat pot. So
Right.
it was quality time food.
Yes.
So I asked them if they could do me some with just the best food in it.
Yeah.
So things that we'd found out that parrots really liked.
Yeah.
Now, whether that was a peanut, a Brazil nut, or a piece of fruit, whatever it was, and glazed fruit, these little glazed fruit and tiny little bits. So I said, right, get this little pot of food. When you bring both your parrots in, so when you move a parrot, they're always a little bit unsteady anyway, thinking what's happening. Every night you bring them in, sit them on the stands, and have some time with them, feeding them the really good stuff.
Yeah.
So the parrots would know that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What that does is it means that you'll still have this, and this is the sad bit, you'll still have the element of control over them.
Yeah.
You do need to be able to control your birds, because if ever you've got to do anything, if it's injured or if there's something wrong, you don't want something scatty flying about into the mesh and things like that.
And
You've
that's
got to
why
be able
people
to
struggle
handle
with wild birds
Yeah.
so much, because they very rarely come back down to earth.
That's right, yes. And so it's trying to show them, so if you can go up and, no matter what it is, and away from what we're talking now, we even do this with tigers.
Yeah.
We make sure that we don't want them to be trained as pets, but we want them to be able to come to us to take food so we can get medication and things.
And check their teeth and check their paws.
We don't want to keep them wild.
No.
We want, because they're not wild. And that's the same with these parrots. So they've still got each other. They've got the outside, they've got the rain, they've got the wind, they've got everything.
And they've got their treat time.
And they've got the treat time.
Yes.
And then the most important, they've got the sleep time.
Yes.
Undisturbed.
Yeah.
What if you could do that, then you're going to get the maximum.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's going to be best, but the maximum you can get. It might be not what you want, unfortunately. As humans and as pet owners, we usually want something we can't have.
Yeah.
We want a parrot that's going to recite Shakespeare when
and
we ask
every
it
swear
to,
word.
but unstop
And
when
300 songs.
yeah, but stop when we said to stop.
Yeah.
This is where I used to get the problem. So this lady, she contacts me and says, "You've been giving me advice. I'd love to put the birds outside,
Yeah.
but somebody's taught them the wrong words, and they're shouting over the garden fence,
Right.
and they were swearing.
Right.
Is there anything you can do?" And I thought, because I was a little bit of a publicity person then,
Yeah.
I thought, oh, this will make a good article, this.
It would.
So I contacted the Parrot magazine,
Yeah.
and I contacted the local press who followed me everywhere. And I said, I've got to sort out this parrot, these couple of parrots. Do you want me to feed you the information? And they said, yeah, brilliant, that's really good. Anything to do with parrots and vicars, they always just say the same, will always make headlines. Always just say that. Parrots, wait until you hear the story of the vicar with the parrot that I have. Because he's one of these that I'm going to tell you about. And so I went over to this lady and I was talking. As soon as I walked in, the parrot just swore, and it was effing B.
Oh.
And I thought, that's quite clear.
That's
that.
colourful.
That's quite clear. And then the other one would laugh.
Right.
And when the other one laughed, then it would come out with. And when they say some of these words, they're not nice.
Right. Okay.
There's so many words you can get away with. I mean, you can get away with lots more words on radio and TV today, but in those days, 20 or 30 years ago, you couldn't.
Yeah.
And so, but some of these words were very extreme. So I actually thought, right, okay, try to, and it was always her husband's voice.
Yeah.
So her husband that taught it. Her husband and her son had very similar deep voices.
Yeah.
And it was those two. They used to stand in the kitchen, and they did it to wind the wife up, and it did wind them up.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden they were trying to put it out in the summertime and the garden, and he was shouting over there. So I said, let's try reteaching it new words. So we went into fruit pastel.
Right.
So every time they said that, I said, turn on, go fruit pastel, and give it a treat. And I think we got to fruit.
That's not bad.
It's still, the second word was still, and in the garden, it's still, well, she turned into a fruit, one of them. So it still wasn't perfect. So I realised that I'd
it just
failed.
sounds like these parrots have decided that the lady next door must give them fruit.
Yes, and if they don't,
Oi,
she's
fruit bee.
yeah.
Where are you at?
So it didn't actually work. It made headlines. It did really well in the local press because I tell them everything that I was doing. I just didn't tell them it didn't practically work as good as I wanted it. So, but so that's what we used to try to do. But some of the things that they've done. So if I think of some of the birds that I'm trying to think, because obviously I'm not going to swear, and this has always been the worst thing, that when I've been contacted by news channels all over the world, especially with our swearing parrots, our famous swearing parrots, then everybody used to think, well, the instant they got on the radio, they'd say, Steve, this is live, please don't say what they say. And I said, oh, except in America, he came out with it on the radio, and I thought, oh, listen to him. And he's saying, make sure you tell us. Make sure. And I said, oh no, I'm not saying that on radio. So I didn't say anything. So I can't tell you what they said, but I can make it so that you can get as close to where they were. And what the two that I can actually think of more than anything, one was called Paco.
Okay.
Now Paco I had to pick him up from, and I remember certain things I remember distinctly. And I got a phone call, and the weather was horrendous, and I just finished work, and I got a phone call, and from a chap, and he says, listen mate, if you don't come and get this parrot, I will wring its neck tonight.
Goodness gracious me.
Now, whether it was being serious or not, I've no idea, but I said to the family, I've got to go. I've got to go down and pick this bird up. And he said, oh, and the weather was horrendous.
Oh,
so I jumped straight in. I was still in my working clothes, jumped into the van, drove down to the house. And I remember the house. It was a semi-detached house with a garage at the side of it. Now, the chap had the garage as a workshop.
Right.
And the parrot lived in the workshop.
Right.
With him.
Right.
And it appeared, my story, when I left the place, my story was, it was him and the parrot against the wife.
Right.
Because the wife wasn't very nice with him.
Right.
And he didn't have many nice words to say about her. So between them, and the parrot was the intermediate that actually passed the words on. Now, I didn't realise this until a few weeks. I knew I could see the animosity in the house, but I didn't realise until a few weeks on when Paco had come out with all the words exactly
how bad it
what
was.
it was. So because he was a builder and he used to do work in his workshop, whenever you picked anything up and went near his cage, Paco would go, watch out. So you imagine, I've got him, and I've got him in quarantine. And he's in quarantine, and I'm like sorting him out and sorting everything out around him. Pick something up, and as I go, watch out, and it's like, all right, I will. I'm sorry, mate. But the funniest bit to start off with, and there's a few stories about Paco, but the funniest bit was, so when he's telling me about it, and he says he does this and he says this, and I said, yeah, that's okay. He says he's got a few choice words. I says, that's all right, no problem, that's okay. It doesn't affect me. So I get him in the back of the van. He says, you can't get him out of the cage because he will bite like mad. So I said, yep, that's all right, no problem. So I gets the cage, puts it, and I fastened it to the back of the seat. Okay. So imagine being sat in a transit van, and it's all open at the back. Right. But I've got a parrot sat here in his cage, and he's like that, looking out of the window. No problem. Paco and I'm here. Sets off driving, and the weather is horrendous.
Right.
The rain was hitting the windows. It was pitch black, and going up the motorway. and I'd got the hands-free set up, and I thought I'll just phone to say that I'm on my way home.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to Dawn on, and she says, "What is it?" I said, "It's an African grey." So she says, "What's the weather like?" And I was just about to open my mouth, and the parrot went, "Effing nightmare." Well, I nearly drove off the road because Dawn knows I wouldn't say that, but it came out in a voice very similar to mine. So she started laughing and she says, "What, is it that bad?" I said, "That weren't me. I didn't say that." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It was a parrot." So she said, "You're joking?" Because she could hear it on the voice loudspeaker. And I says, "No, that was Paco." So she says, "All right, he sounds a character. And what is it?" So he went, "Effing parrots." I said, "There's a parrot." That was it. So on his way up, so all the time I'm trying to think, what could he have said? What words could he have said?
Yeah.
So the chap's wife was quite a stocky lady with red hair. So as I pulls up, again I've got to be careful what I say. I can say things because he was so crude in certain things.
Gosh.
So as I pulls up, Dawn opened the door,
Right.
and I reversed the van to the door, and I said, "Can you give us a hand?" And he went, "Hey up, ginger witch." And I thought, "Oh, that's another one." And then he walked past and he said, "Move out of the way, lord arse." Honestly, I'm telling you all this, and like, right, and so.
Oh my god.
So and anyway, it went on, and the amount of things this parrot, and I'm not kidding, the swear words that this parrot knew. So I puts it in quarantine, and then I said, right, we're going to introduce him outside. But he'd become a bit of a star. So the person that came to my house, "Where's Paco?" I said, "He's in quarantine. Can I just go and say hello to him?" "Yeah, if you want." So he'd go downstairs and he'd set off swearing at him, and they loved it, and they'd walk away. So I said, right, I've got to introduce him out to the other birds.
Yeah.
And we know that there's certain birds that they're so humanised, just don't fit
Yeah, they don't.
with other birds. They just literally don't fit with other birds. And he was one of them.
Yeah.
And he used to sit at the front of the aviary. So all the birds would be going around and he'd be like looking outside. So Dawn felt so sorry for him. And we used to have a patio that was like opposite a raised patio.
Yeah.
And she'd look at Paco. "I think he wants to come outside." And I says, "No, we're not having parrots in the house." So she says, "I think he wants to come outside." So I says, well, we went down to see him and we're looking at all the birds and he sat at the front. And as he was like sat there, I says, "You are happy, aren't you?" And as he said it, honestly, this is true, he bowed his head down as a parrot flew and he went, "Fucking parrots." That was it. All right, he can come out. So I goes in, grabs him, brings him outside. From there on, the words he used to say, he became such a celebrity to people because of, it weren't just the swear words, it's the context he said them in.
Yeah.
And like, so if you walk past, he'd go, "Oi, watch out," and then he'd call big things. And it's like, "What?" And it's like, "Oh my god," and they'd say, "Lord arse." So, "Whoa, I've left." But then we brought him here. He actually lived with us for years. And we brought him here, and Channel 4 actually said to me, they wanted to do a TV programme about us building the actual sanctuary. And I said, "You're okay." And we was in the aviary, and Paco was outside then, he sat outside. And the sound man had said, "Can I fasten the microphone to here?" And I said, "Yeah, of course you can." He says, "Because I don't want the parrots to chew it."
Yeah.
And then the sound man's with me, and he's knelt down. The cameramen, we had two cameramen, one on either side. And we was, do you need to be able to reach over to that? Oh, can you reach it?
Oh, okay.
Here we go. We've got to do a little bit of a jigsaw.
We have
Here we go. Done.
nailed it.
Nailed it straight away.
It.
And he says, "Can we actually film here?" And I said, "Yeah, of course you can." So we're filming, talking about parrots, and all you could see is the cameraman, proper giggling, gone with his head down. So the cameraman turned and said, "What's the matter?" He says, "I don't know where it's coming from, but you need to listen to this."
Right.
And all the time we're talking, and I can't tell you because it is going F, F, C, C, F, F, C, Lord arse, F, F, C. The cameraman has gone, he says, "Oh, is it coming?" I says, "Oh, that's Paco." And he says, "Where is he?" I says, "There, sat at the side of the microphone." And he was just swearing down the microphone. So they said, "Can we film him instead?" So they actually did an article on him.
Oh, my word.
So it ended up being more about parrots swearing. And obviously we're well known for that now because we had it then. And now we've got the biggest collection of swearing parrots that are...
Yeah, we really do.
Which you're going to hear about as we go on. But listen, when you're talking swearing parrots, these...
So you've never actually been able to like successfully rehabilitate a swearing parrot?
No, I was.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think it is.
It isn't
it's
because...
a noise rather than a swear word. So
because
it's not
you'll
like,
try not reacting to it.
Well, yeah, there is
You'll
that
try
as well.
walking past when one swears at you and you
and
can't
not
laugh.
Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
genuinely love it. I mean, my last little story, let me just tell you what we do here, guys. We write a list of stories that I'm going to talk about. I haven't got to one of them yet. Oh, I haven't, no.
You've done 2.
Have I done two? Oh, I said Parrot Whisperer.
You've done Paco.
I know I've done Paco, that's it, yes.
You haven't done any of
I
those.
haven't done any of the other. Can you imagine how long these podcasts are going to go on for?
Wait, you should talk about the second one though.
I can get that one in if you want. It's not a show. Will it make it too long? It might be better off. It's quite a good story. It's quite a long story.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do your little one and we'll see where we're at.
Okay. I don't even know what the little one was.
No.
I've lost the little one now. So it's no idea.
Well, there you go.
We're coming to the end of the podcast, and my mind's already shut off because it says that's the end of it. So I don't think there's anything else we can say.
Well, if you think it's too long to do the next one, that's
It is quite long. It is. I mean, what we'll do is we'll cover that on the first bit of the next one.
Okay.
Because it is. All you've got to say to me is.
We've got to talk about Peter as well.
Oh, PTS. We need to mention PTS.
Yeah.
So let me just finish off with Paco.
Okay.
So Paco ended up living with us all the time, and he was still here when we was open. Right. And he used to sit out at the front and greet people.
Did he?
And he actually knew because I was going to mention the vicar. He actually knew when not to swear because he wouldn't swear in front of people when he was there, the general public. Really? He never swore in front of the general public, but he would swear when we was all there, and he would swear if something triggered him.
What a polite parrot.
One of the shortest stories I've got is, I'm talking about parrots and vicars. I used to look after parrots for people once we started, and this vicar actually brought his Amazon, and I've heard Amazons sing and do little bits of talking, but never heard them really into talking. They're usually very vocal, but
they're more
singers than talkers. And this vicar dropped his parrot off for 2 weeks. He hadn't gone 20 minutes, and the parrot was effing and blinding. And I don't know why.
Oh my word!
I have no idea why, but for some unknown reason, because it was a vicar's, it
you
to
don't
be a little
expect
bit.
it to.
Like, oh, I hope you don't think I've taught it that. So when he came back, I was worried all the way. He was away for 2 weeks, and when he came back, I said to him, I need to tell you something, that your parrot actually swears. Yeah. And he says, yeah. I says, it's not me. I ain't taught it. He says, no, it's not you. He says, I'm only a vicar. If I hit my thumb with a hammer, the same words come out of me as what comes out of you. Do you swear? So I asked him to swear before he went, and then he went, and that was it. And to hear a vicar swear is so unusual, it's like...
It sounds unusual.
But it was so... And that's why, I don't know why vicars and parrots make good stories, but a vicar and a parrot in the same story was a nice way to finish, I think. So
you've got Sheila climbing up your leg.
I've got a cat climbing up my leg, which is going to hurt in a couple of seconds. So before I start with my swearing...
Thank you so much for being here for episode 4. We've covered 2 topics out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
How long do you think I've got left?
I don't know, but I'm worried.
Thank you very much.
Good. It's been really good.
It's been good. We've got cat's feet coming through the table. We've got a hole here, and there's a cat foot coming through it. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I bet you can see it on there.
You can.
Thank you very much for watching, guys.
Thank you very much. Our next podcast will be on next Thursday, 2 p.m. This podcast will be available for public watching on Monday. Yep. We do have an exciting new little intro.
Oh yeah.
Going on our videos.
Yeah, good. I like it.
So
you'll
get to see that on maybe tomorrow. Actually,
it's probably one of the very few things that 3 of us have been involved with, and all 3 of us did it, and all 3 of us said, "I like that." That's probably the very thing. So it's going to be a big hit. The podcasts are crap, but the
intro's great.
But the intro's brilliant, and when we get an outro, it's amazing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and so obviously for public viewing, that will be available on Monday. If you want to watch it live with us, just hit the subscribe button. Obviously this is for the benefit of the people that are watching on Monday. So you can subscribe on Facebook, Twitch or TikTok, and you can watch it live on a Thursday with us.
Yes.
And do it all in the
The
flesh.
unedited raw version.
Yeah, essentially.
On subscribes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching,
Thank you
guys.
for being here.
And we've actually done quite well, really.
We've
had a couple of cat
We've not
performances.
covered as much as I wanted to, but it's cool. It's fine.
You have to just learn us. So, Steve, we've had enough of that story now. Move on, please.
No, I can't do that. You have too many interesting stories.
Okay.
There we go.
Got loads to do. Take care.
Thank
See
you
all
so
soon.
much.
Thank
We'll
you, everybody.
See you soon. And bye.
Bye for now. I'll press both
You're going
buttons.
to press all the buttons.
Yeah.
I'm going to press these buttons.
I have to do them.
Thank you guys so much.